Very good evening to all of you. So probably I'll just take a minute to set it up. Thank you. So can you hear me loud and clear? Good, right? So I think we had, it's good, right? Yeah. So I think we had very good and interesting discussion so far in terms of first Pinaki talking about how to connect the dots, Shantanu talking about a lot of policy changes, Abhay talked about changes in the litigation space. Then we had some good kind of healthy argument. As such, a few questions coming in from your end. But only thing so initially I thought of just running through this presentation, but in terms of looking how the kind of session going on, I don't want this to be kind of a monologue wherein I just present, you just listen, because what I'm going to do in the next maybe 15-20 minutes is going to run you through a bunch of numbers again, because that's what we do best in KPMG, right? Research and studies and a lot of numbers, surveys and stuff like that. So I'm going to take you with a couple of them, which are pretty relevant and recent in terms of IP. But at the same time, I want this to be a little bit of a dialogue in terms of just to take a little bit of understanding from your end as to when we talk about this, a dynamic IP in the new wave of innovation, what does it pop in your mind in terms of what that kind of entails, what we are going to talk about over here, any thing that you want to kind of start the conversation with? Can I see any hand going up? No? No, I know that this is basically the second last session. After this, my colleague Naveen is going to come up and give a presentation, and it's basically we holding you from the cocktail dinner, and so we don't want to hold you that much. So I'll just start. So basically, when we wanted to make this presentation in terms of, so I was thinking in terms of what we can show you that kind of add maybe 5 or 10% of value, that when you leave this room, at least there should be some 3 or 4 data points that you should have in mind, or some things that you should know while leaving this room, right? Because I know all of you are kind of pros in intellectual property, and you know a lot of stuff, you know a lot of things which are happening in and around us. So I don't think that there is much to say about those things. A lot of articles which come every day on the newspapers, which talks about IP and other stuff. So I thought that we will kind of take sector-specific views in terms of how the sectors in India are evolving over the last 1 year or so, I would say, wherein there is a lot of focus in and around innovation and how do people commercialize on the innovation piece, right? So that is a focus across industries if you see. Now, when I kind of started looking and researching on various things, I saw that there are, God knows, 20 or 25 sectors which are pretty relevant in today's context. And if I'm going to put all those 25 sectors into the presentation, it can go on for 8 hours. So I just took a decision of taking one of the relevant sectors, which is the IT BPM sector. Because if you look at the GDP contribution as well, the services sector almost contributes around 52% of the entire GDP. So on that basis, I kind of termed it as relevant. So in this room, are there people from the services industry or the IT industry present over here? No one from that industry? Okay, one small pencil went up. So any other person? You are in the services industry, right? You are an investigator. Yeah? And who else? Anybody else for that matter? I am from the services sector. Yeah, I can see a few hands going up. So basically, so this was a study which was study plus a survey which was conducted by KPMG along with NASSCOM. And I just wanted to highlight a few points over here in terms of how intellectual property is kind of becoming a boardroom agenda, and that how people are looking in terms of commercializing IP, taking benefits from IP, at the same time protecting IP. right? And at this age, we know that there are a lot of startups which are coming. So there are more than 10,000 odd startups in India currently, right? And the counting is kind of going on. As I speak, I think a new startup will be created, right? There will be many internet commerce companies which are coming, right? A lot of the way we do business are changing, right? If you look at the app-based cab companies, right? They don't own a single cab at the end of the day. If you look at payment banks, if you look at, so there is a whole lot of new aspects which are coming into picture which were not even thought of a few years back, right? So technology is playing a very important role. So in this survey, when we asked the respondent even in terms of the objectives for which they define or would want to define IP in the organization, 92% of them said that we want it because to enrich or enhance the commercial value of the organization, right? That was the main point that came out, followed by ownership and ability to protect my intellectual assets, right? In some shape or form. It might be through intellectual property or it can be through trade secrets as well, which is not protected under a law in India as of now. But there are many organizations in India, and we work with a lot of them, who prefers to have their ideas, their innovations to be kept as trade secret. But at the same time, they want to leverage and have the competitive advantage to use those innovations to drive commercial value within the organization. So this is innovation from an IT BPM perspective are majorly on three folds. So these are again based on the survey results. So typically one is on the monetization. One is how do you kind of integrate your solutions with cloud-based solutions, right? You hear about Internet of Things, right? You hear about every technology is kind of getting integrated, right? We are not talking about a technology or we are not talking about a device right now. We talk every device talking with every other device. We are now thinking of applications wherein you can switch on your house AC sitting from your office, right? So as of now, there are still home automation solutions are evolving, but I don't think that it's going to be far off, wherein these things will be a standard kind of amenity which is given by the builders, for example. When we talk about smart cities, a lot of these aspects will actually come into play, right? The third is the convergence of knowledge, or technologies, right? So technology is, again, a technology cannot work in itself, right? So you need a periphery of technologies to work along with it, right? And that is applicable for each and every industry. That is not applicable only from an IT standpoint. But if you go and look into other industries as well, you see a lot of mergers and acquisitions are going on right now, right? Over the last 2 and 3 years, wherein people are buying relevant technologies which will help further their technology or product in the market without any hassle. So this is a very interesting slide. So this is, so let me explain. This looks a little complicated, I know. So you see this 2011, 2012, 2013, the number is the ITM BPM sector was at $108 billion in 2013 with a compounded annual growth rate of 10.8%. Right? If you do a linear kind of growth model, it comes to around $221 billion as on 2020. Right? But NASSCOM's projection for the IT BPM sector was $300 billion by end of 2020. Now, the only way this difference of $79 billion, right, which is going to get reduced or kind of minimized, would be with the base of innovation, with the base of acquisitions, with the base of inorganic growth which will happen within this industry. There will be a lot of consolidation which will happen eventually, if you see. If you see the e-commerce industry today, there are various players doing the same kind of business today. But over a period of time, and we all know, it's going to consolidate. And there will be one or two major players in each of those spaces, be it retail, be it food, be it cab, you name it, it will be the same. So this is how the thought process is evolving within the Indian industry. Most of the people around, and Abhay spoke about, and also Dr. Agarwal spoke about IP generation management and commercialization. But there are kind of shifts which are happening in the thought process on how an IP has to be treated within an organization. Now, very recently, we had a couple of conversations with the research and development departments of the organizations on the arm, right, which are huge Indian conglomerates. And the thing that we are seeing is that now the R&D centers are looking to become profit centers rather than being cost centers, which was the case in the past, right? So they don't want to be just creating patents or filing patents or doing innovation and just leaving it over there. They want to see the real value of the patents coming out. They want to see that how their patent portfolio are getting utilized for the benefit or commercialization of the company. They want to see that if a particular technology is being evolved which is not core to their business, is there a possibility wherein we can license it out, we can sell it to somebody else, we can give it to, we can start a different line of business altogether, a separate line of company, which is nothing to do with the original company. So a lot of these thought processes are kind of evolving over a period of time. Some of the top challenges that we found during the survey was talent management. So talent management, when we talk about, and we all know, right, in this particular space, talent is few. It's a very niche space. You need to know your subject, you need to know the matter, you need to be business savvy as well as tech savvy. You need to look into multiple aspects. So there are few of them. I don't want to go through each and every challenges, but these are, you can kind of read them. So this is the cyber, this is the another, so the first one I kind of took you through was the IT BPM survey and study which was done. And so that, I just wanted to give you a perspective of that, how the IT BPM industry is trying to grow and kind of leverage on the intellectual assets and intellectual property to grow kind of many folds, right, in India. And with the advent of the startup initiative, the Digital India, the Make in India campaigns, these things are increasing over a period of time, right? And this will be the story across sectors. If you talk about automotive sectors, you talk about other sectors, this will be very similar story in each of those sectors, if you would see. Now, this is a cybercrime survey which was conducted in November 2015, very recent. So there were 250 odd respondents at the C-level who kind of responded on this survey. And so there was pretty much kind of all major industries or sectors which were covered, including oil, gas, BFSI, ITAS, manufacturing. So there also, if you see, out of the top 3 impactful cybercrime on the companies, the second most important thing came from theft of intellectual property and sensitive data. So that amounted to 55. So 55% of their respondent said that in the last 1 year, they had been subjected to one or more instances of intellectual property theft or sensitive data leakage, right? And to also, if you kind of see the reason also on the right-hand side, which is on the cyber risk management piece, 61% of the respondent also said that they don't have proper mechanism or tools to prevent data leakage as of now. So this is my last slide for the day. So this was a different survey, but this is a global survey which was conducted at a CEO level globally to talk about that how do they perceive cybercrime. And I just took one slide out of that because I thought that was something which was relevant, because the 100% of the CEOs acknowledged that keeping data safe is no longer an afterthought, whether it's customer data or IP necessary to run the company. So at least this theme is very prevalent in terms of, and I would want to hear from you as well, that if you have faced any instances or if you know of anything which has happened in the past wherein any data leakage or theft which has happened, so I will be happy to kind of hear those instances and get kind of enriched as well. So thank you. So this is my presentation.